Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm excited to bring you a review for the new Transformers Studio Series 86, number 8, Gnaw. Now, interestingly, he's just called Gnaw. It's not like Sharkticon Gnaw or anything, so I'm kind of surprised they were able to get such a generic name through the whole trademark system without putting a prefix there, so pretty cool. Gnaw, like his classic 80s toy, is the individual designation given to one of many Sharkticons under control of the Quintessons, and you can see right here they have the Quintesson symbol showing that off, which is the first one we've seen in the Studio Series. They've used it a lot over in the War for Seibertron trilogy. So I do like seeing that consistency across the different series there. Gnaw is an all-new Deluxe class mold, separate from previous attempts at the toy, both the Legends class one from a few years back, the Cyberverse Warrior class one. He's his own thing, and is designed to be very, very accurate to the Sharkticon appearance in Transformers the movie. Now naturally, while the toy is officially known as Gnaw, he can really serve as just any number of Sharkticons, which you can bet this guy is going to be army built into oblivion. So it might be difficult finding one right away. Anyway, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Gnaw's packaging, then we'll open it up, we'll see the instructions. At some point in the video, I'll look at the backdrop with Gnaw, and then we'll see the character himself in both Beast and Robot modes. Naturally, I'll be doing plenty of group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Gnaw comes in your standard Deluxe class packaging for Studio Series. Get the really nice artwork of the character right here in the corner. You can see the toy himself, and he's quite small. He's, a little Deluxe, which, is nothing new in modern Transformers. Size doesn't necessarily mean size class anymore. And as I pointed out, he's officially designated as a Quintesson line character, which is the first time this character has been released as anything other than a Decepticon. Right? Even the original Gnaw toy was just called a Decepticon, because up until pretty recently, Hasbro's been very shy about delving into like third-party type factions, right? It's always been, one good guy faction, one bad guy faction. They didn't really mix it up a lot, but they're really starting to branch out now. You got a small taste of it with the Star Seekers way back in Prime, but you only got the one toy. And now in War for Seibertron, they're really opening it up, and they're getting the Mercenary faction, the Quintesson faction. They're mix and matching Autobots and Maximals, Decepticons, Predacons. So they're getting a little more willing to, kind of branch out and assume that people won't get confused, right? Because that was always a justification is, these are made for kids and kids will get confused. We have too many factions. And luckily that way of thinking has gone away. And I very much approve. I like that, Gnaw isn't just shoehorned into being a Decepticon yet again, but actually shows his true allegiance for once. So I really dig it. You can also see that the upper shell of the shark mode comes detached, as well as the guns out there, and the dorsal fin comes out too, which I don't know, maybe it's meant to serve as a handheld blade, or maybe it's meant to detach so you can weaponize them. Not really sure why that's detachable, but nothing wrong with it. It's not intrusive, so I like it. Okay, so on the back we get renders of Gnaw in both Beast and Robot modes. He takes 17 steps to transform, so he's not overly complex, but, the Gnaw design was never an overly complex one to begin with. He comes with the Mockery of Justice backdrop, which is the same one that comes with some of the other Studio Series toys that are related to the Quintesson scene there, the trial. And then our little bio for Gnaw right here says, Gnaw and the Sharkticons lurk beneath the Quintesson courtroom, ready to carry out the sentence of any bot unlucky enough to fall victim to Quintesson justice. I like that. It's a pretty good, flavorful write-up. I dig it. And then over here, you just get this really nice big picture of Gnaw with the little 86 symbol above it. So yeah, overall packaging is simple, but it does the job well. Shows what this character is really about. So let's go ahead and open it up and see everything inside. Okay, here's Gnaw's instruction book. And the color used is kind of interesting. Up until now, any Quintesson line characters have been done up in this kind of lime green color, similar to the one used for Beast Wars and Kingdom. They've opted for the neutral bluish green, which is usually reserved for Mercenaries. So I don't know if that's an intentional change going forward or just kind of a one-off mistake. Somebody didn't get the memo that Quintessons are green, but I mean, who knows? Studio Series isn't the same line as War for Seibertron, so maybe it follows different rules. So yeah, you can see the render here on the front, Quintesson symbol, the name, all that. Here you can see them telling you to plug the shark fin into the back and actually turn it around, because I guess apparently in robot mode, the dorsal fin points up. I'll take their word for it. Honestly, I can't remember ever seeing the back of a Sharkticon to know in its robot mode, so I'll believe him. This shows you how to just kind of get him, configured. His whole little backpack section actually slides on from the side, so that's interesting. Which means it can be detached easily if you want to for whatever reason. And then we just get to the transformation to the beast mode. Comes all the way around. Shows you how to plug his tail in and then attach the blaster to his side, just so it has somewhere to go. Because I think the original toy, they didn't have any storage for the blaster. So even though I'm not crazy about weapons just being like slapped on, it's better than them just having to be, set aside with Nordistorm. So, and then we just get the how-to for having him wield his weapons. Lastly here, we get cross-sells for the other deluxes in the wave. You get Bumblebee, who's the Revenge of the Fallen Bumblebee toy, and then Jolt, who I recently acquired and will review when time permits. Okay, now we can see Gnaw in his beast mode, and I gotta say, just at first glance, this really looks like some of those high-end third-party offerings. So that's saying a lot there, right? The Sharkticons and Alicons and Quintessons, they were definitely the domain of third-party unofficial toy makers, since Hasbro for the longest time really wasn't giving us our fix with these guys. The closest we came were like the little Legends class Gnaws and Sharkticons, but now that he's finally got a proper update, I mean, you can see what Hasbro can do when they really put their minds to it. So he looks really, really cool. He's got a good bit of articulation here. He's got swiveling shoulders and bending elbows here. Wrists don't turn or anything, that's okay. The mouth opens. Unfortunately, you can see the robot head, inside the mouth, but at least the face is tucked away. Really gorgeous paint on the eyes and everything. Some nice paint apps on the lower jaw, right here, little forehead crest. Around the side, you can make out some robot details, like the feet tucked up inside, but they're, very streamlined against the body. They don't stick out or anything. The tail is on a single hinge here. Kind of wish there was a little more to it. Bend, maybe at least one more time, like right here, but better than nothing. You can also swing around since it's in a 5mm port, like so. And then the legs are universal joints. Right there at the hips. Single bend knees, thigh swivel. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to have 4 toes. That's one thing I'm really confused about. I think there's supposed to be a toe on the inside, and I guess they just couldn't do it because of the transformation. But at least his fists tuck away this time, unlike the recent offerings in both the Legends class and the Cyberverse, which is hanging off the back, so it is an improvement. There's the blaster, which just plugs on via this little port right here. And it's nice and out of the way, so I appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think it looks really, really good. He's even got the little whisker things that none of the other toys have been able to capture, so I think they did a fantastic job here with this beast mode. Yeah, it'd be nice if there was a way to have that extra toe, like if the fist maybe, I don't know, went up inside instead of folding inward, but I guess that's not in the budget these days. But yeah, mine also has this really unfortunate bit of paint spatter right here on the front too, a little bit of blue, which I can't even take off because it's paint on top of other paint, so if I try to remove it, I'll just remove the silver. So I'm just kind of stuck with that, unless I want to go through the trouble of trying to get my money back or something, and I honestly really don't. Here's a group shot of Gnaw with some of the more recent attempts at Gnaw or general Sharkticons. So over here you get your 2 Legends class toys. This one from Titan's Return. This a redeco of it as a generic Sharkticon from the Pit of Judgment set, which was part of War for Seibertron. Which, the early War for Seibertron was kind of interesting because they reused a lot of the Prime Wars assets in it. Specifically when it came to smaller toys like this guy, the clones, the twins. Then over here, just for, more of a complete comparison, we even get the Cyberverse Warrior class Gnaw. Now, functionally, this toy is basically an upscaling of these guys as far as the overall transformation, but he's actually even more simplified than the little Legends toys. Lacks the arm articulation for the shark. The head doesn't fold away like it does for these guys. It's just hanging out in the bottom of the mouth like it does for him. So really, even though he's bigger, in my opinion, he's easily the worst Gnaw toy we've had at all. So yeah, definitely not my favorite, but he serves as, troop builder fodder. He just is a cheap way to build up your Sharkticon army. Just don't expect to be very impressed with him. Honestly, the Legends toys, despite the fact that they made some weird decisions with, how the transformation works, where like the shark head goes to the back of the legs and everything, they're really solid. Like some of the best Legends class toys that were put out during the Prime Wars trilogy. So even though they're kind of doing their own thing and don't look exactly like, how they're supposed to here, like this guy, I still think they're great. I wouldn't mind his army building a ton of these little guys as minions for our main Gnaw here. Of course, collecting this particular one would get very expensive because he's part of a big old, like, $70 set. So not very practical unless you're just loaded. Here's a fun little group shot with all of the Quintesson beasties that are out so far. So we still got our Sharkticons here. We get Slitherfang, the Battle Master. We get our Alicon from Earthrise. And then we get the Quintesson Bailiff, who, like the Sharkticon, is also from that Pit of Judgment set. And functionally, in his beast mode, is just kind of a modified Alicon. So, yeah, this is a really nice little group shot. Really, the only thing we need to make this set complete would be the Executioners. Those weird little haunched over guys with a kind of almost mantis-like hands. I don't know if you could actually make a transforming toy for one of those, but I mean, they did with the Bailiff, so they could come up with something if they really wanted to. I wouldn't mind getting it as some sort of like a non-transforming figure, like a Build-A-Figure, maybe something in RED, though. Honestly, at this point, I'm convinced RED is never going to stray from like popular A-tier characters, so I'm not going to get my hopes up for that. I really thought when it came out it was a great opportunity to get some obscure stuff out there, maybe do like Action Masters, Pretender Shell, something, non-transforming, Transformer characters. No. No, it's just your Optimuses, Megatrons, Bumblebees, all that stuff, which is really disappointing. It's basically just a merchandise line. And I was really hoping for some deeper cuts. But, I could be wrong, right? Maybe they'll decide to do it at some point and give us characters like the Executioner, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Okay, now it's time to transform Gnaw into his iconic robot mode. So the first thing you want to do is remove his accessories. Take the little blaster off. Unplug his tail. Set those aside. Alright, then you actually want to turn his dorsal fin backwards per the instructions. Again, I'm just assuming it's supposed to go that way. I can't see haven't found any footage of a robot mode Sharkticon's back, so I'll believe him. Alright, so you get all that, right? Then we are going to lift this back section up. Kind of just untabs right there. Fold it down out of the way. You're going to fold out the robot feet like so. Go ahead, flip out the heel spurs. All right here. Got little pudgy feet, huh? Okay, I'm going to fold this back bit in like so. Get the arms out of the way. Now, you want to rotate this whole assembly 180. Fold everything down here. You want to have the lower jaw coming down like a collar. And then you're going to plug this dorsal, well, actually not the dorsal, but this little, like, kind of plush-shaped 5mm post into the hole in his back, like so. Make sure this is pulled all the way back. Arms are, kind of nice and out of the way here. All right, and then lastly, we're gonna flip out the fists. Get them all posed up. All right, and here is Gnaw's robot mode. Now we can go ahead and give him his accessories. So you get the mace accessory here, the flail, I guess you'd call it, like so. And then you put the blaster in his hand, this little short handle right here on the end. All right, look at him. He's a chonk, isn't he? But he's supposed to be. So this, like I said, really just makes me think of like our third-party offerings as far as the level of quality we're getting here. Everything is where it should be. He looks really, really good. He looks like he jumped right off of the screen here, and I really dig that. As far as articulation in this mode, he's got, of course, the ball-jointed head, which can go every which way. Still got the universal shoulders, bicep swivel, elbows. No wrist swivel, sadly. He does not have a waist swivel because of the way he has to transform, so keep that in mind. But he does have universal joints in the hips. Oops. The thigh swivel, single bend knees. He gets kind of an ankle rocking here, though it looks very unnatural to bend it that way. And then, of course, he gets ankle tilt, which, honestly, if you tilt it more than, like, this much, it looks like his feet have just been chopped off, so... Not my favorite execution. Not as bad as, say, Wreck-Gar's, where, like, half his foot just kind of separates from the other half, but still can be kind of unsightly in some poses. But I'm still pretty satisfied with the end product. You know, they have to work within the limitations of the original design, and I'd say they do that very, very well here. As promised, here's a look at Gnaw's backdrop with him displayed prominently in front. And I swear I didn't forget to film this until I had filmed everything else and was in the middle of editing. I'm totally recording this in real time, and anyone that tells you differently is lying. They're lying. So I never forget to do these. But yeah, the backdrop, I mean, it's a little plain for my tastes. It's just, you know, a bunch of blue panels and a few little yellow lights here and there. Not the most exciting one, for sure. I think one of my favorites in the Studio Series line is Jazz's, the Moonbase 2. Very detailed, very colorful. This one, again, it's just pretty generic. I'm not super impressed with it, but it's fine. I mean, it's the same one that came with, like, Slag, so it is what it is. And, you know, the color and the tone matches the figure really well, so it does have that going for it. One neat little thing you can do with this toy, if you have the Studio Series Kup, is you can give Kup the flail weapon from the Sharkticon to recreate that scene from the Transformers movie, where he rips the tail off of one of them and just proceeds to absolutely beat down on the other Sharkticons with his tail. It's not a feature that's highlighted anywhere, but I'd have a hard time believing that this wasn't at least a thought when they were designing this. And because of the fact that it just uses your, you know, standard 5mm post for the handle, you can have Kup hold it, you can have pretty much, you know, any Transformer from modern day hold on to this thing. But I gotta say, Kup looks particularly heroic here, just brandishing this thing, ready to lay the smack down on some baddies. Here's our big Gnaw group shot again. Get your Legends class toys, the Cyberverse Warrior, and these two look absolutely puny compared to our new guy. I mean, they look like little baby Sharkticons. They're silly little proportions and just really diminutive stature. Like, they were cool for their time, and again, really great for Legends class toys, but they have been clearly usurped here. And then our Cyberverse toy, you know, again, it's very simple. Not much to it. I mean, it's a very clean design. I'll give it that. It isn't bad to look at. It's just, you know, doesn't have a whole lot of play value because the articulation's so limited and everything. But again, just makes for just another option to have more Sharkticon minions running around. And as I touched on during the packaging part of this guy right here is the only one of these. He's the only Sharkticon toy in existence that isn't branded as a Decepticon. So I'm really happy that Hasbro finally decided to go in on that and not just label everything an Autobot or a Decepticon, but show that there is a little bit of, you know, depth and nuance to the Transformers universe, and it's not all one faction or another. Like, you remember back with the, was it Transformers Seibertron, right? The Deluxe class Unicron, and he was a Decepticon? Like, that's not how that works. Unicron joins no faction. He is his own faction, so... Yeah, I am really happy that they're finally starting to branch out a little bit, get a little braver with those factions. And I do hope to see more of that in the future. And for my final group shot today, we're going to get a look at all of our Quintesson aligned characters from the War for Seibertron and the Studio Series. So we're bringing in the rest of the Pit of Judgment guys here, the Quintesson from that. We already saw our Bailiff and Sharkticon. We get our Adjudicator right here. We get Slitherfang again, we get our regular Earthrise Alicon, our regular Earthrise Quintesson, and then even the Dezius Army Drone from the Netflix trilogy. And I gotta say, this guy's definitely the odd man out. Like, he's the only one that doesn't look like a Quintesson character, he's just Black Ironhide. But he is a Quintesson line character, even if he only exists in like one particular fictional universe. But there's nothing to say that these army drones don't exist in the greater War for Seibertron or, G1 continuity somewhere out there, just haven't seen. So, yeah, we got a pretty complete little setup here for these guys. Again, it'd be nice if we do get the Executioner in some form, hopefully one that scales well with these. And the only other thing I can think of, aside from maybe, different Quintessons, because there are differently shaped ones out there, the Overcharge drones, which were the Blitzwing recolor from eHobby. Now, we do know, according to some leaks, though they appear to be pretty valid, that there is a new Leader Class Blitzwing coming in Legacy. And Hasbro and Takara usually want to get at least 2 uses out of every mold, so I can definitely see a Selects Overcharge drone coming down the pike, and I'd be pretty excited for that. I think that'd be a really good way to bring a very obscure character into, modern toy lines. Speaking of getting multiple uses out of a mold, Gnaw is an interesting one because there aren't really many characters you can turn them into, aside from maybe just differently colored Sharkticon. So I do wonder, if or how they're going to go about doing that. Are they going to give him a recolor kind of in the vein of this Sharkticon here and just, give him some sort of differently colored palette? Maybe in the vein of the studio series like Sweep and Junkion that's coming out. What's the guy's name? Junkyard, I think, is the leak name for that. Those guys are pretty much just palette swaps. Probably new head for the Junkion. So maybe they'll go that route and just release this as a standard army builder with modified colors, because I can't think of too much else they could really do with Gnaw here. Unless they do some crazy retooling in the vein of like the Alicon and Bailiff. Maybe give us something else, Quintesson aligned or something different entirely. We'll see. It is always possible that they just don't make another use of this mold. That whole 2 per mold is not, an absolute. You look at something like Astro Train from Siege and Earthrise, he never got a recolor. And maybe that's just because they released him in 2 lines, and they consider that like the second use, I don't know. But surprisingly, yeah, like Leader Class toys almost always get a recolor or retool, so I'm really shocked that Astro Train hasn't seen that yet. So yeah, if you have been collecting the Quintesson toys since, War for Seibertron started or maybe even earlier, this guy makes a really great addition to that. Especially, against your newer toys. He scales pretty much perfectly with the other Alicons and stuff. I'm still not convinced that the Adjudicator is supposed to be this small. I always thought he was closer in size to the actual Quintesson Judge, but maybe not. But yeah, this guy really, really just helps top off your Quintesson collection if you have one. And this completes our look at the new Studio Series Gnaw. Overall, I'm very pleased with this toy. I think it does just about everything perfectly. It's got a really interesting, innovative transformation that's a lot more than just kind of the robot legs going up inside the shark body, because that's how the original one was. And it manages to give you just the most faithful take on Gnaw that we've received so far. I think it looks absolutely phenomenal in both beast mode and robot modes. He's not nearly as compromised as some of the more recent efforts of Gnaw, or just, Sharkticons in general. And I think he does a lot better job than, even say like the Alicon, who had a real big issue of the robot arms just hanging off the sides of the beast mode, or the beast arms, hanging off the robot arms. So definitely some improvements have been made to the design philosophy and, how creative they get when making all this work. I'd say, to me, he's pretty much up there with Rekgar as far as, what I consider a perfect interpretation of the character. I've got no complaints, really, at all with this guy. He does everything he's supposed to do. Wrist swivel would have been nice, but, I wouldn't expect it too much. He's a little short, but he does have a really nice transformation. Pretty high part count, despite his rather compact size, so I think he's worth deluxe prices, personally. And I'm just really happy I got this guy. So naturally, I highly recommend him to anybody that's a fan of Transformers, of G1, anything. He's very, very fun to play with in both modes. He makes a great army builder, though, my personal, request to people is give people a chance to get this guy before you go nuts and buy like 20 of them. Like, if you would, be mindful of the other collectors out there, because most people just want one of this guy. And, it's kind of... It does kind of stink when you're searching high and low for a toy and you can't find it because everybody's just buying them up as much as they can. So my personal request to everyone out there, be mindful. Give him time to saturate a little bit before you go out there and just completely stock up on Sharkticons. I know most people aren't going to listen to me and they're like, yeah, don't tell me what to do. You're not my dad, but I don't know. That's my personal take as far as, fellow collector. So yeah, highly recommend him. He's starting to show up in stores right now. I imagine you get this guy from a Walmart. So I would check there, check your targets, check online. He should be releasing online pretty soon. And I think you'll be very pleased with him. Of course, that is just my take on the toy. Now I want to know what you all think of him. Is this new Gnaw everything you would hope for in a proper update to the character? Or do you find it lacking in some way? Do you not like the design? Any and all feedback is always welcome in the comment section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining for this look at the brand new Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Gnaw. And with all that said, I will see you next time.